I know you know what's going on and why you were here.
You wouldn't be covering for Nate at all?
We're trying to figure out what happened at that house.
He's never seen a murder case so complicated and convoluted. Described by police working the case as irrational and erratic.
Now, police in Illinois have not yet released any information about the motive for the murders there.
Get out of there! Get out!
Oh God.
We want to talk to you alone, separate from him. That's what we're trying to make sure that you're safe.
At first glance, crime scene photos indicate that it looks like the horrific event could have been a result of a robbery gone wrong.
Another ad shows a pistol, magazines, and a knife with the statement, "I can and I will."
Hey True Crime Besties, welcome back to an all-new episode of Serialously. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to an all-new episode of Serialously with me, Annie Elise. I hope you are ready because we are getting into the deep dives today, and this is a wild one. But really quick, I gotta just do a little bit of admin, okay? A little housekeeping here. Now, I think I've mentioned this in the past, so I apologize if I sound like a broken record. But because these episodes get cross-posted not only on the podcast, but to YouTube, I just kind of got to set the level straight. That made no sense. I want to just set the record straight and level set for a moment. So if you're a podcast listener, like a devoted podcast listener, whether it's mine, others, you just know the name of the game of podcasts, then you know that in podcast audio episodes, traditionally, there are usually 4 to 5 ads per episode, depending on how long an episode is. And so if you're a podcast listener and that's usually your primary form of consuming content, that's not really out of the norm for you. However, if you're a YouTube content consumer, then usually you know that it's usually one sponsorship per episode and one ad. So what I've been finding is that while a lot of people who are podcast listeners understand, that, okay, there's usually 4 or 5 ads per episode, that's not up to me, guys. That's just how the podcast sells the ads, and that's just how podcast listening works. When these episodes are getting cross-posted over to YouTube, understandably, the people who primarily only watch YouTube are like, what's going on here? I'm so used to seeing only one ad. Why are there 4 or 5 in an episode? This feels really crazy. It feels overly saturated. So all to say, the whole reason I'm bringing that up is just to explain that for podcast episodes, which this is first and foremost a podcast episode, the ads get sold differently than how they do on YouTube. So that's why there are more ads in this type of episode content. My 10 to Life episodes that are on YouTube will still remain the same. It's only one ad, but I just wanted to explain that because if you're not a podcast listener, then I can understand where the confusion comes from and where the irritation comes from. But if you're a podcast listener, then you get it. I mean, there's some podcasts. I listen to Giggly Squad and I also listen to The Toast every now and then. And I feel like those sometimes have upwards of 8 to 10 ads. It gets kind of, crazy. But again, it all depends on the duration of the episode. But I just wanted to come on here and put that out as a disclaimer because especially now that I'm posting more of my podcast episodes to YouTube, you'll be seeing that if you're watching over there. And so again, I just wanted to explain so that you understand the thought process behind it, why it works that way. And so you don't think I'm just trying to stack you with a million ads for no reason. It's because it's 2 separate properties. They get sold differently, which don't get sold by me. I'm not in charge of that. But anyway, just wanted to explain. Now, before we get into today's episode, I do want to also give you guys a quick reminder for everybody who has been in my ear, in my DM, sending us messages asking, hey, will you ever make Serialously a daily show? Not quite yet. However, I've got the next best thing for you. Last Tuesday, we officially launched the new podcast, 10 to Life. Now, you probably have heard me reference over here my YouTube channel several times, and there was a little bit of a misconception. I've heard from a lot of you who are just loyal podcast listeners that you thought that YouTube was basically just the video version of these episodes. It is that, but I also have an entirely separate show on YouTube called 10 to Life, and I'm talking well over 1,000 episodes now and new episodes every week. And so we decided to make 10 to Life a podcast. So now for everybody who's a podcast listener, whether you're driving to work every day, you're out exercising, you're just, cleaning and you have your AirPods in, you have extra content to binge. So now you'll have, between the two shows, you'll have episodes Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. It's a lot of content. And last week for our Tuesday drop, for our big announcement, we actually dropped 2 episodes in the feed. And it has been so well received by all of you. We hit number 3 in the true crime charts. We hit in the top 10 in the all categories podcast charts at launch. So I'm so happy you guys are loving it as much as we love giving you this content. So if you haven't checked it out by now, you can search 1010 to Life on any podcast app that you use, whether it's Apple, Spotify, whatever, and follow the show so that you don't miss any of those episodes. And you can go binge some of that content right now. Last week, again, we dropped 2 mega episodes. We have another one coming out tomorrow that is so insane. So go check that out. 10 to Life. We got you covered now 4 days a week. And I don't know, maybe more in the future too. So I just wanted to give that little reminder for you. And now we are going to get into today's case. So now that we've gotten the housekeeping out of the way, I want to talk to you a little bit about today's case because, like I said, it did happen relatively recently in comparison to some other cases that we've talked about because it takes place in 2023. It also takes place in a very quiet suburban neighborhood. You know the kind where it's like block parties and garage sales are the norm. You know all your neighbors, you're waving, you're saying hi, people are playing on the street, where it's really peaceful on the surface. But as you know, as a true crime listener, you know that sometimes darkness really does hide in plain sight. And that is what's happening today. Because behind closed doors, somebody's entire world was unraveling. I mean, paranoia was creeping in, reality was slipping away, and it really felt like the walls were closing in. And by the time anybody noticed, it was too late. Because an entire family was found dead. Executed, almost cartel style. I mean, parents, children. It was a crime that was so brutal that it left the investigators reeling. And there were so many twists in this case that nobody even knew where to turn, where to look, what was happening. I mean, it really turned this quiet community's life into a nightmare. And really into something almost too shocking to even believe.
Murder suspects armed and dangerous, still inside the vehicle. Car's on fire! Get out of the car! This is the Catoosa Police Department. Step out of your vehicle with your hands up. Do it now.
That's 2 gunshots?
We don't know if it was gunshots or hose popping. I got door. Do not see movement. No movement. Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out now! Got it. Nothing. Floorboard. Get her. Got cover. Grab her belt.
So to understand this case, we've got to get to know the people involved, starting with a man named Nathaniel Huey. Now on paper, Nathaniel was just a regular guy. He ran a security company, he had a fiance, he also had some kids from a previous relationship. And honestly, I'm not trying to shade him or anything, but Nathaniel was not the type of guy who really stood out in a crowd. If you passed him at the grocery store or maybe saw him at a gas station, you probably honestly wouldn't really think twice. So in 2023, Nathaniel was 32 years old. He had an average build, dark skin, short black hair. He had some short facial hair as well. He also had some tattoos, but nothing too crazy, just like a little partial sleeve on one arm with normal tattoo type artwork, flowers, birds, trees. And by all accounts, Nathaniel just seemed pretty normal. Now, Nathaniel was from Streamwood, Illinois, a quiet suburb just about an hour northwest of Chicago. And like I said in the beginning of this episode, it's the kind of place where families go and they settle down. Kids are riding their bikes after school. Neighbors are throwing barbecues in the summer. And Nathaniel and his fiancée, Irma Linda Palomo, had been there for years. Now, they weren't exactly social butterflies, but they also weren't hermits either. Neighbors knew who they were, just not very well. And like I said, Nathaniel ran his own security business, so he was a pretty busy guy. Now, he called his business Black Bear Security, and this company specialized in surveillance cameras, also in alarms, personal security, like all that good stuff. He really just wanted to make other people feel safe. And for him, it was more than just a job. It was almost like a reflection of his state of mind. He was the type of person who was always just watching, always waiting for something to happen. And his business was very successful. He had customers who really seemed to like him. So on the surface, this guy was reliable, professional, and really seemed to be good at what he did. And here's just a little bit more info about his company.
According to these state business records, Huey's security company had been registered at the Streamwood location since at least 2021. The firm, officially called Black Bear Security LLC, also includes the word promotion here on its Facebook page. That ad with the gun and apparent silencer promotes Black Bear's residential, business, personal, and bodyguard security. Another ad shows a pistol, magazines, and a knife with the statement, "I can and I will."
Now, as it turns out, Nathaniel could be a little too protective, you could say. He would always go above and beyond to make sure that his own home was secure, sometimes even to the point where it almost felt like excessive. I mean, we're talking cameras on every single corner of his house, floodlights, locks on the doors that kind of almost made it seem like he might have been hiding something. Or, I mean, maybe he was just paranoid, or maybe a guy who just cared too much about security. I mean, that was his business after all, so if he knows how to install it, if he has the equipment accessible, why not use it, right? I have a lot of cameras around my house, inside and outside, and I mean, sometimes people just have their personal preference. Now, since 2015, Nathaniel had been in the relationship with his fiancée, Ermelinda. And let's just say this relationship between the two of them, it was complicated to say the least. I mean, they had been together since 2015, and while they didn't have any kids together, Nathaniel did have young children from a previous relationship. So on the surface, it did seem like this stable, long-term partnership come 2023, because at that point, it was about 8 years. But anyone who spent enough time around them, they could really feel that there was like this underlying tension between the two of them, even if it was hard to pinpoint exactly what that tension was. Now, one of the biggest things that people took notice of in their relationship was that Ermelinda was 50 years old, so 18 years older than Nathaniel. Ermelinda had long, dark hair, great flawless skin. She even looked a few years younger than her actual age. And she was a mother with 5 grown kids and 5 grandchildren. But honestly, not a ton is known really about her personal life outside of the fact that she was engaged to Nathaniel and at some point also had that previous relationship. So as Nathaniel and Ermelinda's relationship went on, one of her daughters says that they started to get a little put off by Nathaniel. She said that sort of suddenly, at some point in 2023, he just started coming off as this super angry guy. He even started to distance himself from their family. But at that point in time, nobody really knew why. There was no red flag. There was no real details as to why he was suddenly acting angry or distancing himself. It just didn't make a lot of sense. And something else that was a little bit, I don't want to say off-putting, but questionable to people who were close to the couple was that they had been engaged for a really long time, yet had never taken the step to get married. And sure, lots of people will be engaged for, years, several years, who cares? It's all a personal preference. But some people were wondering okay, is that a red flag in their relationship too? They've been engaged for so many years, yet they're not actually getting married. Why? If they're so happy, if they're so in love, why not get married? So people were starting to kind of have their own reservations and hesitations and questions about the relationship. And according to that same daughter who had said that something was going on with Nathaniel's behavior and how he was distancing himself, she also said that in the second half of 2023, Nathaniel just started acting differently toward them. And that over the course of just a few months, his behavior started changing even more. Now, Nathaniel had always been into security and protection. We know we already talked about that, and some people may have described him as even being a little bit too paranoid. One of those people who's always kind of sort of just waiting for something to happen so they can spring into action, be the savior. And it almost started to seem like Nathaniel wanted something bad to happen, also that he could do something about it. Nathaniel even started becoming convinced that people were watching him, that there were neighbors, strangers, just people that he worked with, all these different people watching him, which of course sounds, I'm sure, like paranoia. But he wasn't just paranoid or nervous, he was almost eagerly waiting for them to do something because he wanted to spring into action and protect himself, protect his house. He also wasn't the type of person, apparently, to let things go. And it wasn't just paranoia about strangers or co-workers or acquaintances either. Nathaniel also began suspecting the people closest to him, his friends, his family, even his fiancée. He thought they might all be up to something, or they all might be out to get him, or trying to expose him, or trying to do something to take him down. So that's where things really started to take a darker turn in this story, or at least paint a more clear picture as to what was going on with Nathaniel. Because as it turns out, rumors started swirling that Nathaniel was having an affair. And I guess maybe he had a right to be paranoid about whether or not people were talking about him, because in all fairness, as it turns out, the rumors of that affair were 100% true. He was having an affair, and people were talking about it. Nathaniel had been having an affair with a woman named Zoraida, who was a coworker that he actually met through an engineering company that he had done some work for in the past. Now, Zoraida was a bright, ambitious woman. She had shoulder-length brown hair. She balanced a very busy work life with her role as a wife and a mother. She also worked as an engineer, which was a field that she was extremely passionate about, and it was through her job that she crossed paths with Nathaniel. Now, Zoraida was married, as I mentioned. She was married to a man named Alberto, and together they were raising a young family together. The couple had 2 young kids, ages 7 and 9. And friends described her as just very compassionate, very hardworking, often juggling her responsibilities at home and at work and just doing it all with grace, making it almost look effortless, easy. Zoraida and Alberto had known each other for more than a decade, building a life that was truly centered around their children and their shared goals. She loved family gatherings, she loved anything that had to do with her kids, and to those around her, her life seemed just so fulfilling, so happy, and her marriage really seemed to be the exact same. But then, what began as these professional interactions with Nathaniel slowly started blurring into personal interactions. Work conversations started turning into inside jokes, and then those jokes turned into longer conversations, longer chats that extended well beyond working hours and well beyond professionalism. And before you know it, there were the late night texts and late night phone calls. Then that escalated into meeting up, hooking up, sneaking around their families, their partners, and getting into a full-on affair. But here's where things get even messier, as if they're not messy already, right? Ermelinda, Nathaniel's fiance, wasn't totally oblivious to what was going on. Because Ermelinda started noticing these late nights. She started noticing the sudden need to work these extra hours and have these secretive phone calls. Now, when you're in a relationship, or if you've ever been in a relationship and you suspected that your partner was cheating on you, I would say it's fair to say that most people wouldn't just sit back and move on. I mean, it's not very hard to jump to conclusions immediately, to confront them, to say what's going on, or I went through your phone, or this or that. Then again, though, not everybody has the same personality. Sometimes people just would rather live either in denial or kind of just bite the bullet and be okay, we'll get through this. Almost convince yourself that you're the crazy one, that it's all in your head, that you're paranoid, and that there's no way that the person you love would ever do something like this to you. Because sometimes the truth is a lot harder of a pill to swallow, so it's easier to just be in denial about it. But here's the ironic thing about this situation. Nathaniel was the one having the affair. He was also the paranoid one, not Ermelinda. So as you can guess, this wasn't really a great mix, at all, for anybody involved. Because for Nathaniel, the cracks were showing, big time. As the affair went on, he started questioning everyone around him, even Zoraida. He wanted to know if she was all in, if she still loved him, if she was up to something, if she was maybe dating him in secret for the wrong reasons. He just started getting hyper paranoid. And what's that expression that anyone who, I don't even know what the expression is, but you're going to get where I'm going with this, where if somebody's cheating and they're the ones always up in their partner's business, accusing them of cheating or accusing them of being shady, it's because they're the ones who have the guilty conscience. That's kind of what was going on here. And I think I know the expression I was thinking of. If you point the finger at somebody, you have 3 more pointing back at you, which I know that's so loser and cliche, but it's true, right? How many times have we seen that happen? So that's kind of where Nathaniel was. He was already paranoid by nature, but now he's having this affair and he's getting even more hyper paranoid, thinking, Zoraida, are you still with me for the right reasons? Are you using me for something? Are you talking to people? Thinking everybody's turning against him when what's the lyric to that song? No, bro, you're the problem. It's you. You are the one who is driving the ship on all of this, steering the ship. And it's you. Man, I need to lay off these expressions. I'm getting carried away today. Okay, so one thing's for sure in all of this. Almost 100% of affairs that happened, it was not going to be sustainable. It was only a matter of time before somebody slipped up or something gave way, right? I mean, we've seen how these things can snowball. And let's be real, affairs and secrecy rarely end with everybody walking away and living some happily ever after. It usually ends in either heartbreak, disaster, murder, or all of the above. And if you thought that Nathaniel's paranoia was already, skyrocketing and off the charts, buckle up, because this is where things start to get even stranger, if you can believe that, really strange. So somewhere in the middle of juggling his double life, keeping Ermelinda at bay and sneaking around with Zoraida, Nathaniel started getting these very bizarre Facebook messages, and not the kind that you can easily ignore either. I mean, these weren't spam messages about extending a car warranty or a Nigerian prince looking for a relationship, and all you got to do is give him a little quick bank transfer. These messages were personal and specific enough to send a chill down anyone's spine. The person reaching out claimed to be somebody with connections to Zoraida, and they said that they had information that Nathaniel needed to know, and this information was not good. The messages were hinting at Zoraida being involved in some very dangerous activity. I mean, criminal organizations, shady dealings, drug cartel kind of stuff, like some really scary stuff. I mean, things that would really make anyone second guess who the hell they were sneaking around with. Who the hell have I been sleeping with? Who have I been dating with? Like, who is this person? And to Nathaniel, this didn't sound anything like the woman that he knew. But the messages didn't stop there. Whoever was sending them made it clear that they were watching Nathaniel too. They knew about his affair, his late night meetups, the secrets that he was keeping. And imagine already being a paranoid person, convinced that the world is out to get you. Then on top of that, you're getting these cryptic messages along the lines of like, I know what you've done, you think you're safe, but you're not. That kind of thing would make anybody freak out a little bit, right? Especially if you're already paranoid. But who was this person who was messaging him? So the person in these messages said that they had knowledge of Zoraida's alleged, quote, dangerous connections. And they claimed that the reason they were sending these messages and warning Nathaniel was because they were really looking out for him. Basically, like they were trying to warn him about something before it was too late, and that it all had to do with Zoraida. She was the root cause of this. Now, some people might get these kinds of messages and think, okay, this is obviously a prank. This is somebody who's just trying to, play with me a little bit to make me scared. There's no way that this could actually be reality. There's no way any of these allegations are true. But either way, you would try to figure out what was going on, right? Was there any truth to it? Who's sending the messages? But for Nathaniel, it turned out to be like a full-blown crisis for him. See, over time, Nathaniel didn't just believe that he was being threatened. He actually started to believe that maybe he was mixed up in some really scary cartel stuff, as in a Mexican drug cartel. And these messages that he was getting, they weren't just random warnings. The sender actually claimed to be somebody who was very high up in the dangerous cartel. And this person now told Nathaniel that he was working for them now, that he was caught in their web whether he liked it or not, and he had no option to escape. And they really painted this picture of Nathaniel as a key player in their entire operation, somebody who had responsibilities, and even worse than that, somebody who had consequences if he didn't follow through with them. Now, at first, all of that might have seemed a little far-fetched. I mean, to you and me, we're probably like, okay, I would put this person on, leave them on red, mark them as spam, and move on with my life. But Nathaniel bought into it for whatever reason, and it was almost like he wanted to buy into it, like he thrived off the drama of it all. And he started acting like he was a part of this world, a part of this dangerous cartel world, believing that these drug lords were all the ones pulling the strings all around him. And even more than that, he started believing that his life truly was in danger. So it wasn't just paranoia anymore. He somehow convinced himself that he was in the middle of this big, horrible organization and that it was deadly and that he played such a pivotal role in it. And when you start believing something like that, it's easy to see that you might stop thinking clearly. And if there was one thing that Nathaniel was good at, it was definitely overthinking. He was definitely not the type of person to just shrug things off and move on with his day. So these messages took up permanent space in his brain, making him even more suspicious of everybody around him. Who could he trust? Who was watching? And more importantly, why? So these messages started freaking him out so much that Nathaniel started stockpiling guns, not just one or two for home protection or for personal protection, but at least 13, ranging all the way from handguns to semi-automatic rifles. And this wasn't something that he kept subtle either. I mean, friends and acquaintances said that Nathaniel had this growing obsession with self-defense and just being prepared and being, quote, ready for anything. And he started spending more times at shooting ranges and playing around with these weapons, almost like he was preparing for something. So, was it just a reflection of his growing paranoia? Or did Nathaniel genuinely believe that he was in danger? And where does his fiancée Ermelinda fit into all of this? I mean, did she know about some of these messages? because you would think that it would be really difficult for Nathaniel to keep these messages from her. And who was this person? Who was this person that was lurking in the online shadows, claiming to know all of this stuff about Nathaniel and Zoraida? And what did the messages really say? We do know that whoever was sending Nathaniel these messages had somehow convinced him that he was involved with an international drug cartel. And like I said, the messages didn't stop there either. They made it sound like Zoraida was plotting something significant, something that would put Nathaniel at risk. In these messages, there were all these different implications of betrayal and double dealing and how she was involved in this, which it all sounds so ridiculous and unbelievable and like Lifetime movie, I know, but these were real messages being sent by somebody who seemed to know a lot about Nathaniel's life, like a scary amount about his life. And some of these messages convinced Nathaniel that these cartels were constantly watching him, watching his loyalty, his trustworthiness, making sure that if push came to shove, he would always be loyal to the cartel. He would put them above himself and above others. And he would also get these weird messages on occasion that would encourage him to stop cheating on his fiancée, Ermelinda. Some messages even going as far as to tell him, hey, not only stop cheating on her, but you need to go and have sex with her. Like very personal, direct messages. But Nathaniel wasn't the only person getting weird messages in all of this. Apparently, Alberto, Zoraida's husband, had also been contacted numerous times by some of these, same people, this same organization, the same ones reaching out to Nathaniel. One message that Alberto received was on June 27th, 2023, and it said, quote, I don't believe Zoraida believes my warnings, and for the safety of your family, she really needs to be honest with you. Nathaniel has rifles and guns that he carries with him. The mother of your children is putting them in danger, and she knows this. So if Alberto got a message like this, then it meant that he was definitely aware of the affair, right? I mean, these messages reference Zoraida being involved with Nathaniel. We just don't know if Alberto believed these messages or not. Now, one of the central claims of the person sending these cryptic messages to Nathaniel was that not only was Zoraida shady, but she was also only involved with him because she was out to get him. That this was all a setup. This was all a plot, a ploy, a big scheme of hers. That she really didn't care about him at all. It was all done intentionally. Now, in messages to Nathaniel that he received on September 14th, 2023, the sender claimed something very, very weird in this. This so-called cartel, head man, head honcho, whatever you would call it, made a very wild claim about Zoraida. They said that she was working with the cartel against Nathaniel, which you're probably wondering the same thing that I was. What did this person mean? I mean, working against him. What does that even mean? It sounds like a bad scripted movie, right? But they said that Zoraida wasn't who Nathaniel thought that she was. Apparently, according to them, she was a mole. This was all a plot. This was all a ploy. It was someone who was intentionally working to double-cross Nathaniel, to blow his cover with the cartel. Because remember, at this point, he actually believes he's working with the cartel. He believes that he's like roped in with them. And now she's a mole that has been planted and she's working against him to expose him. I mean, it's wild. It feels like a movie. So essentially, this meant that this whole time that he had been in this secret relationship with her, she had ulterior motives. She had been out to get him. The messages also went on to describe Zoraida's home in incredible detail. I mean, we're talking specifics about who lived there, who was in the house, including her husband Alberto, their 2 children, even the number and types of breed of the dogs that they had. It's eerie, right? I mean, whoever was sending these messages wasn't just throwing out vague information hoping it would stick or be applicable to whoever they were talking about. They had proof that they knew what was going on in Nathaniel's life, and they had proof over a lot of details about the people involved in his life. So now Nathaniel's paranoia, it's starting to make a little bit more sense, right? Thinking that you're being watched by cartels is pretty freaking terrifying. That's one of the reasons I never even really will cover a cartel case, because I'm too scared. I live too close to the border. Like, I'm not going near that stuff. Now, it's also worth considering the detailed knowledge that was included in those messages. How did the sender know so much about where Zoraida lived? Was it somebody on the inside? Somebody who had access to that information? These kinds of specifics just feel intimate in a way, almost like it came from somebody very close to the situation. So then it begs the question, what if it was the husband, Alberto? I mean, think about it. If he found out about the affair with his wife and Nathaniel, then it's easy to see how he could want to possibly mess with Nathaniel's head, screw up his head, and maybe even do it in an extreme way. Maybe even scare him off so that he would stop talking to his wife. Maybe he was laying the groundwork to set up some sort of trap and attack him. I don't know. I mean, was it all some sort of messed up plan to confront Nathaniel and Zoraida in some super awkward, like, gotcha moment or I set you up moment? Or again, could he have just been trying to scare him away, being like, let me spook him and let him know that Zoraida's involved in all this shady stuff and all these shady people, and maybe he'll ditch her and ghost her and never want to be with her again. Maybe that was the entire goal, to push Nathaniel to cut ties with Zoraida without things escalating further. Or what if this entire situation was orchestrated by Nathaniel and Zoraida themselves? What if Zoraida and Nathaniel wanted to create the illusion of being targeted by these so-called dangerous forces or cartel people, all to justify running away together and living happily ever after, like Bonnie and Clyde? I mean, think about it. If both of them were feeling trapped in their respective lives, Nathaniel engaged to Ermelinda and Zoraida tied to her family, this could have been their fantasy way of escaping that. They plant the idea that somebody is out to get them, sending these ominous messages to set the stage for them to flee, to leave together. I mean, the cartel and the Bulgarian crime angles are definitely insanely dramatic, which could have been a part of their strategy. If their families truly believed that they were in danger, it might have made their eventual disappearance seem more understandable, almost even inevitable. These messages could have been designed strategically to raise fear, to raise suspicion. And let's also not overlook the possibility that this was their way of deflecting blame. If the story became more about some secretive, shady organization that was targeting them and not so much about them having this secretive affair, then it might have covered up their real motivations to get away together. Well, the answer to all of those questions, at least to some of them, would come on September 17th, 2023, when the police responded to a welfare check in Romeoville, Illinois, a city that is 40 minutes south of where Nathaniel was from. And as the police entered the home that day, they were shocked at what they discovered. There were 4 dead bodies and 3 dead dogs, all shot to death. So when the police entered this house on September 17th, 2023, there were 4 dead bodies right there in front of them.
This one was open. No, it's not.
Oh God. Dogs are dead. 2 dead dogs.
I need more units here. More units here. Hold this.
350.
I got 2 dead dogs. TV's knocked over and a cop that was knocked over in the front room.
But who were they? What happened? And most importantly, why would somebody do this? And maybe the biggest question of all, who would do this? The police initially had responded to a wellness check at this house because some people who lived inside the home hadn't shown up for work that day. Their families were also having a difficult time getting a hold of them, which is why they called in this wellness check. Well, the home that the police entered that day belonged to Zoraida and Alberto. And as the investigator got inside the house to take a look around, what they saw was something that still haunts them to this day. 2 adults, 2 kids, and 3 dogs just found dead right in front of them from gunshot wounds. The victims were Zoraida, her husband Alberto, and their 2 children, Adriel and Diego, who were just 9 and 7 years old. The family's pets had also been killed in the same way, with a gun. Now, whoever did this must have used a silencer because nobody that lived around them ever heard any of the gunshots or any of the commotion that had been happening that day.
Neighbors did not report hearing any gunshots during the time the Romeoville family of 4 and their 3 dogs would have been shot to death.
Now, this scene, just imagining it, is horrifying because this was supposed to be a home, a safe home, a family's home. And an entire family was just murdered, along with their pets. A family that to everyone around them seemed to be living a very normal life. And I obviously, of course, can't stop thinking about the kids in this. I mean, obviously, nobody deserves to die like that. But kids in this? I mean, it is just so disgusting. And killing kids in this sort of way does kind of have the marking of a cartel to it. So first, the cops noticed that there were some odd details right off the bat. Police saw a crack in one of the windows, and when they peeked inside, furniture was overturned, which gave the impression of either a struggle or some sort of break-in. But here's the thing. To the police, this overturned furniture, it looked staged. Screens on the windows had been deliberately cut as well, and even stranger, there was spray paint on the walls. So it seemed like someone really wanted to make it look like this was a random crime, maybe the work of vandals or teenagers or robbers, who knows. Cops also noted that the door to the kitchen had been unlocked, so you would think that a criminal would probably check the doors first instead of cutting screens that were on the window. So that was another clue that this crime scene appeared to be staged. The killer probably did just waltz right in. And if the cops' theory was true, that the crime scene had actually been staged, what did that mean about who did this? If that was the case, then obviously this wasn't just someone who was angry or impulsive. They had been planning ahead, trying to carefully craft how they could throw everybody off their radar and get away with it. But who would want this family dead? And why? Now, I know you're probably all thinking the same thing that I am, wondering where Nathaniel was during all of this. Was he safe? Had somebody gotten to him too? Did the cartel finally catch up to both of them? Or maybe could he have been somehow involved in this seriously disturbing crime? So after the cops did their initial investigation, they connected Nathaniel and Zoraida's affair pretty quickly. So of course they had to go look at Nathaniel for questioning. They knew that there was a connection, they knew that they had had an affair, and they also wanted to question the fiancé, Ermelinda too. How often do we talk about a lover scorned? Now at this point, they didn't have any evidence that any of them were involved. But questioning is pretty standard procedure in a situation like this. I mean, when somebody's been murdered, you start by talking with the people who knew them, who were involved with them, who might have had a reason to want to see them hurt, right? Especially if there's something suspicious about them. And the affair between the two of them, I mean, that hit the bill. That was like a solid checkmark. We need to talk to this guy. So when police talked with his fiancée Ermelinda, she told the investigators that she didn't really know Zoraida personally, only that Nathaniel and Zoraida worked together. That's it. That's all she knew. No drama, no elaborate backstory, just a simple, we're not that close. And she didn't seem particularly nervous or rattled, or at least that's not how it came across. It was all pretty straightforward on her end. It wasn't even clear if she knew that Nathaniel was having an affair or not. And here's a bit from her interview with the police.
Hello. Hi, Ermelinda. My name is Detective Garcia.
Hello.
From the Romeo Police Department. This is Detective Wagner.
Hello.
I know you know what's going on and why you were here. Okay? I know you were talking on the phone with your husband right now.
Husband or boyfriend?
This is
Okay. Does he live here with you? How long have you guys been together?
2015.
Okay. We're investigating a murder. Okay? So, we have in our possession some phones, okay? And in those phones, we're doing what it's called a phone dump. So what happens is if anybody's talking on a text app that you can download, for example, Text Now, we can retrieve those messages.
Okay.
We have retrieved those messages. All right, we've read them. They're pretty clear that somebody's pretty upset at the victim. Okay, is there any way that these text messages are going to come back to you, or your name, or your phone, or anything associated with that? Okay.
And then when she was questioned about where Nathaniel was the night of the murders, Ermelinda went on to say that he was definitely at home. He had a rock-solid alibi. Now, I will say Nathaniel's interview was a little more interesting, because cops went to interview him at his place of work, and immediately he denied having anything to do with the murders. However, he did admit to having the affair with Zoraida, and I'm gonna play you a little bit of the police explaining to him that they needed to see his phone, because saying, we need to see your phone, we need to mark you off our suspect list, it's protocol, let us just see your phone. Take a listen.
I mean, if we have a deceased girl and her last fling or boyfriend or whatever is you, and I'm sure that if you're an outsider looking in, who's your suspect? I mean, and so I'd like to eliminate that. I'd like to say, well, we looked through stuff. He didn't have nothing to do with it. We're done with it.
That kind of thing. After the evidence on the computer.
I agree with you, but again, there's it will take us, a couple hours to pull information off the phone that could eliminate you as a suspect, like right from the start. It's up to you.
It feels like you're pretty suspect.
Not very enthusiastic, right? And also, when the police asked him if he would take a polygraph test, he just said, I guess, which it's kind of giving scared, honestly, in my opinion. And he actually ended up not giving the police his phone that day. However, he did promise that he would drop it off to them later on. And here's a little bit more of that interview with Nathaniel.
I'm not trying to ruin your marriage or life, so I'm not like I'm gonna, I'll try to keep this, if we can, from just with us in this room talking, but we're trying to figure out what happened at that house.
Yeah.
If she ever told you about any other, like, romantic relationships she had out of her marriage?
He or
her? Did she say her husband cheating on her, or does she say she ever didn't pass anything? When you leave this room, we're not telling you work anything. It's none of their business. This is our conversation, so it's up to you, whatever you want to tell them. Obviously, we talk to her family, we talk to friends and stuff, hence why we're here, and that's why we're sitting in this room talking to you. And, like, I got to ask, did you have anything to do with this? Okay. I have to ask, and you know that your number is going to be in her phone, and we're going to find your text messages, and we're going to find that stuff, and I want to get a surprise later on that you guys are fighting, or that there was something going on between you two, or just three of you that I don't know about, Something like that.
Nobody was threatening anybody. We weren't fighting. Like, very shit, like, angel, you know what I'm saying? Like, sweet girl, so, like.
Now, at this stage, it was all just preliminary. The police were gathering information, they were connecting the dots, they were trying to piece together what had happened to Zoraida and her family, and they obviously wanted to get her family and her children justice. But they also didn't really have any evidence at this point, so nobody was officially named as a suspect. Instead, their investigation just continued. But then, a few days later, somebody else close to this story was suddenly reported missing. A family member of Irma Linda's called the police to report that they hadn't seen her in days. And not only that, but they said that she was possibly in danger. And now, hold on tight everybody, because this was the event that was about to kick off the start of the wildest true crime twist that you have heard in a minute. So with Irma Linda missing, the cops started piecing together more evidence as to what actually went down in Zoraida's home that day that her and her family were so brutally murdered. And they eventually were able to name an official suspect. So let's get into more about what the cops found inside that home. When the cops were searching the crime scene, they found 9mm shell casings scattered near the bodies. And the investigators later matched them to a handgun that was associated with none other than Nathaniel. And this was a significant link because they matched the weapon to the shell casing. So that meant that, they had their guy, they had their weapon, unless, of course, the gun was stolen. But that wasn't all they found. Surveillance footage played a massive role in the police building their case as well. Security cameras in the area captured Nathaniel's vehicle arriving at Zoraida's home at 3:17 a.m. on the night of the murders. And Nathaniel was seen on footage exiting the car from the passenger side, which is very important because it suggested that somebody else was driving. So a little bit of time passes, and then he gets back into the car and the vehicle leaves the scene. Later, additional footage showed the car heading back to Nathaniel's house in Streamwood. Now, cops also used license plate recognition cameras and tollway records so that they could track the car's route, see exactly where it went, any stops along the way. And then there was also, of course, his phone. And the investigators dug into Nathaniel's phone records, and they found that his device pinged from cell towers that were in that area at the time of the murders. So this further confirmed that he was there. And it's not like these pings were very vague either, because cell tower data can pinpoint a person's general location with surprising accuracy, especially when you pair it with surveillance footage. And remember, one of the more chilling aspects of this case was the level of detail involved. The person, or persons, behind the murders seemed to know the victims. There were no signs of a legit break-in, no signs of a robbery, nothing suggesting that the person who was there had not been either let in or had easy access. So this made the connection to Nathaniel even more suspicious. He wasn't just some random guy, he had worked with Zoraida. He was having a secret affair with her, he knew her. So with all of the evidence, it seemed to be stacking up against Nathaniel. and it was officially time to point the finger at him, bring him in, and name him as a suspect. There was only one problem in all of this. Nathaniel was nowhere to be found, and neither was Ermelinda. So with the main suspect in this quadruple murder officially MIA, the police issued a statewide manhunt for him. The bulletin went out very quickly, alerting neighboring states that they all needed to be on the lookout for Nathaniel and for Ermelinda too. And they were described as being armed and dangerous, which isn't the kind of thing that you hear every day in a suburban town of Illinois. So the story caught on quickly, making national news all around the country. Now, obviously, in this manhunt, there was also, of course, concern for Ermelinda too, because was she wrapped up in something crazy just because of Nathaniel? Did he kidnap her because she figured it all out? I mean, where could they have gone? And though it seems like it was super easy to track Nathaniel to the crime scene, this time it was a little harder to find him, at least initially. He didn't leave much of a trail. However, technology once again played a massive role in tracking him down, especially thanks to something called a flock camera system. Now, apparently, this type of system is used in cities across the country. Not every public place has them, but a lot of them do. And it's basically a license plate reader camera system that can connect to other cameras throughout the country, and then it can pinpoint the direction that a certain car is moving. So, for example, when Nathaniel fled, the cops put his license plate into the flock system, and they got a hit, they got a match. And it turns out that Nathaniel wasn't even in Illinois anymore. He was on his way across the country. In fact, the cops pretty quickly got a hit that the camera system showed Nathaniel had pretty quickly made it to Oklahoma. I mean, he was definitely on the run. So law enforcement agencies across the region all pooled resources together so that they could locate him. And then finally, on September 20th, 2023, 4 days after the murders went down, a camera caught Nathaniel at a Walmart in Oklahoma. Surveillance footage from inside the store confirmed that it was Nathaniel. And it wasn't just him. Somebody else was there with him too. Ermelinda. It turns out she wasn't really missing. I mean, at least the smile on her face in the footage didn't really seem to scream, help, I've been taken against my will, I'm a victim in all of this. And the footage is pretty gross, honestly, because these two people are just like wandering the aisles. They're looking at makeup. They're shopping side by side for electronics. They're exiting the store with smiles on their faces, which it's kind of just like, what the hell? One or maybe even both of you just murdered 4 people, including 2 children. It is so disturbing. They just were acting in this footage like they didn't have a single care in the world. Now, thankfully, the cops were able to catch up to Nathaniel and Ermelinda. But when they did, the pair did not exactly surrender easily. Instead, Nathaniel sped off, leading officers on a super dangerous high-speed chase. But eventually, Nathaniel crashed into a median, and that finally brought their Bonnie and Clyde-style moment to an end. But it wasn't the ending that the cops were expecting, because the vehicle went up in flames in this truly chaotic scene. And after the crash happened, the police then surrounded the SUV and basically did the, come out with your hands up, get out now, surrender, all those types of things.
The couple flees Illinois, leading to a nationwide manhunt. Initially, police believed that Ermelinda might have been an abduction victim, as she was reported missing by her family. But it soon becomes clear that she was complicit in the crime and had fled willingly with her fiancé.
But no one came out. Nathaniel and Ermelinda weren't listening to any of the commands that the police were instructing, which I gotta say is pretty crazy because there's no way that you're getting away when you're surrounded by police and your getaway car is literally going up in flames. So the cops just continued shouting at Nathaniel and Ermelinda. But then they suddenly heard something that would change the course of this entire investigation and the case for good, because 2 gunshots came from inside Nathaniel's SUV. Now, at first, the cops weren't sure if the shots were directed at them, at somebody inside of the car, or if maybe they were in an attempt to self-harm. So, with guns drawn, they moved in on the vehicle closer. But as they did, they were just met with more silence. And through the shattered windows, the police could see 2 figures slumped inside the vehicle, and they could see a lot of blood. One of them was motionless, clearly dead. However, the other one was showing signs of life, some slight movement. So what exactly happened inside that car? Now, from the looks of it, Nathaniel had shot Ermelinda, then turned the gun on himself. And he was successful in taking his own life, but not Ermelinda. Ermelinda survived, but was clearly in critical condition. So an ambulance was called and rushed her to a nearby hospital. But unfortunately, she didn't make it long. Ermelinda also died shortly after the crash went down. So what the heck happened here? Was Ermelinda in on this whole thing? Why did Nathaniel kill her in addition to himself? Where does the cartel and all of those weird messages play into all of this? Like, what is going on? With the main suspect, Nathaniel, dead now too, as well as the person who knew him best, Ermelinda, there wasn't anybody alive who could corroborate what happened or even why the murders were committed, what could have possibly gone down. Although I think it's fair to say, especially given the high-speed chase, he definitely looked good for these murders, right? He looked very guilty, and you get into all of that footage. And let's get into what was revealed after this insane police chase and this crash that left 2 more people dead in this very complex case. Because the craziest thing about this case isn't even really the murders themselves, but rather who was behind them and the strings that this person pulled to make everything happen. So by now we know that all of the evidence had began to stack up, right? I mean, it became pretty clear that Nathaniel was the one who killed Zoraida, killed her husband, killed their children, killed their pets, then killed himself and killed his fiancée, Ermelinda. But as it turns out, as the investigation continued, there was somebody else working behind the scenes that allegedly made Nathaniel carry out these murders. And he had absolutely no idea that this person was the actual mastermind behind all of it. So let's start with this. What was Nathaniel's motives for the murders? Well, it turns out that the mastermind behind the entire thing was none other than his fiancée, Ermelinda. And allegedly, Nathaniel did not have a single clue. Now let's back up to the very beginning, because it turns out that Ermelinda did eventually find out that Nathaniel was cheating on her with Zoraida. But she didn't confront him in any typical way. There was no arguments, no dramatic ultimatums, nothing like that. Instead, she decided to craft a plan so bizarre that it could have come from a twisted psychological thriller movie. Ermelinda began creating fake online personas, and then she started messaging Nathaniel from these accounts, essentially catfishing him. So remember those messages about being involved with a cartel? It was Ermelinda. She apparently had convinced Nathaniel that he was working with the cartel in some massive conspiracy, and he took it seriously. Because remember, he was somebody who wanted to believe that he was a part of something bigger, no matter how insane it sounded. And obviously, Ermelinda really played into that. She took full advantage of his paranoia. Because honestly, if somebody sent you or me a message like that, I feel like, I hope it's safe to say that we would never believe it. I know I would never believe it. I hope you would never believe it. Like, I always say I would love to join a cult because I would want to see if they could convince me of what they're trying to push and what they're trying to sell. But then I get a little scared that they actually might be successful, even though I like to think they wouldn't. But like this situation, I don't think anybody could convince me that I was actively working for the cartel if I wasn't. That just feels like a very big stretch, right? And we're also not just talking about one Facebook profile here or there. Ermelinda made several. She was posing as drug lords. She was posing as other high-ups in the organization. She was posing as all sorts of different key players, all to help get Nathaniel to buy into this scheme. And some of the messages that she sent were honestly kind of ridiculous if you were to think that a cartel leader was actually sending these messages. Because remember, in some of these messages, she was telling Nathaniel that not only does he need to stop cheating on Ermelinda, but that he also needs to go have sex with her. That he needs to stop talking to other chicks and he needs to go have sex with his fiancée, which was herself. She was saying this about herself. Which it's so crazy when you step back and think that Ermelinda was the one who orchestrated this entire thing, and how she pulled it off. I mean, how did Nathaniel not have any idea? He had been with her for nearly a decade at this point, and he didn't know that she was the one doing all of this? And the entire cartel persona, it's just not even believable. It makes no sense. And then you go a step further and think about all of those messages that Zoraida's husband Alberto received. All of those messages came from Ermelinda too, which a lot of them had very descriptive detail as to their house, their pets, the breeds, which means she was watching them very closely. She knew everything about that family. That is very scary. Now, if you'll remember, on June 27th, 2023, which was just a few months before the murders, Ermelinda had sent some messages to Alberto, and one of them said, "I don't believe she believes my warnings, and for the safety of your family, she really needs to be honest with you. Nathaniel has rifles and guns that he carries with him. The mother of your children is putting them in danger, and she knows this." Then, just a couple of weeks before the murders went down, she messaged Alberto again, this time saying, "This will be the last I say of this, Alberto. This stupid girl will be the reason that you have no children." Now, apparently, in all of this, Zoraida had also mentioned to a coworker that at one point she was receiving threatening and harassing text messages and that she was starting to get scared too. So it seems like Ermelinda was contacting all of them, all three of them at different points in this. But even though the family was being targeted by Ermelinda and all of her fake profiles, nobody ever reported anything. And I can maybe understand Nathaniel not reporting it if he truly believed that he, like an idiot, that he was a part of this organization and that he was working for the cartel. But it's honestly a little surprising to me that the messages to Zoraida and her family all went unreported, especially the messages that mentioned the kids. I mean, yes, they sound crazy, but anytime somebody brings up specifics like that or brings up children or anything like that, I mean, I think it deserves to be taken way more seriously from the jump. Then, eventually, just a couple of days before the murders, Ermelinda sent Nathaniel those messages about Zoraida being a mole, that she was all a part of this scheme, that she never cared about him, that she was just doing the dirty work for the cartel because she was trying to attack him. And even going further, as this now posing as this cartel leader, Ermelinda was, and she said not only is Zoraida a mole, but she and her family need to be killed for the sake of the protection and the privacy of the cartel. And remember, Nathaniel believed he was working for the cartel. So now he's hearing in his mind that his secret lover is not only a mole that has been planted and is trying to go against him, but now he's getting direct orders from his boss, his drug lord, that her and her family need to be taken out because he needs to be the one to step in and protect the cartel. So on September 16th, 2023, Nathaniel finally acted on all of those lies that he chose to believe. And Ermelinda was the one who drove Nathaniel to Zoraida's house. So not only did she set up the whole thing secretly, but now she was actively involved in the actual murders with Nathaniel. And once they arrived, Nathaniel went inside while Ermelinda stayed behind in the car. According to police reports, Nathaniel just walked right into the home and shot 2 of the dogs, right there, right first in the kitchen. Then Alberto came out of his room when he heard that noise. So Nathaniel began firing shots at him. Alberto tried so hard to get to his wife and to his 2 kids, but he couldn't make it. And after shooting Alberto, Nathaniel went into the bedroom where Zoraida and her 2 kids were. First, Nathaniel started firing the shots through the bedroom door. But then he went in because he wanted to make sure that everybody was dead, including another family dog. Before Nathaniel left, he then spray painted the walls and he overturned some of the furniture so that it could all apparently trying to make it look like somebody had broken in so that it would throw the investigators off and look like it was some sort of typical teenage shenanigans or, a robbery gone wrong, a robbery that was messy, which I don't know how he thought he was going to fool anybody, but he did. Now, because the cops eventually got access to Nathaniel's car system and saw on security footage Nathaniel getting in and out on the passenger side of the car, they knew that Ermelinda drove them both home after leaving Zoraida's house that day. And get this, after he killed Zoraida's entire family, one of the first things that Nathaniel did was message those fake accounts, telling them that he essentially completed his assignment, that, case closed, the job was done. However, he said that he forgot to take Alberto and Zoraida's phones from the house. Then the next day, Nathaniel and Ermelinda went on with their lives like nothing even happened. Nathaniel went to work like it was any other regular day, and remember, police did interview him that very next day while he was working. They just didn't have all of their ducks in a row to arrest him yet, and apparently they even asked to search his SUV, but he declined. Now, since they didn't have a warrant, he was well within his rights to do so, and so they did not search it. But it sounds like from the get-go, the police knew that Nathaniel was the person who was responsible for this. But they had no idea that Ermelinda was involved in this or how much she truly orchestrated in all of this until way later on. But apparently, Nathaniel figured out that the cops were onto him. So that's why he and Ermelinda eventually fled their home in Streamwood.
The report states that Huey was aware police were investigating him for the quadruple killing, and at one point, he followed investigators while driving recklessly.
Now, before they officially left town, the two of them went into a Target. And there, Nathaniel met up with his mother, which apparently he confessed to her what happened. He confessed that he was the one who committed the murders. I don't know if it was to try and clear his conscience or maybe because he knew the cops were onto him. I don't really know. But he also allegedly told his mother that he killed the children because he thought that it was better for them, that he was like showing a sign of mercy because it would be better than living without parents. So that it was a mercy kill. And that's the only reason he killed the children. Which, let's just talk about how sick and twisted that is. I mean, there is nothing merciful about that. You don't kill two children because you think, quote, they're better off. I mean, give me a break. Then after that meeting, Ermelinda and Nathaniel were just gone. And her family, of course, as we know, reported her as missing and as an endangered person. The cops identified Ermelinda as that missing endangered person, but they also said that it didn't look like she was ever being held against her will or taken against her will. They think that she was an active participant. Then, as we know, after the vehicle crashed, the fire started. And cops think that maybe Nathaniel actually did that the whole scene was pure chaos. The entire SUV just became engulfed in like this massive fireball, making it way too dangerous for the cops who were on the scene as well. The cops had to literally bust open the window with a baton to get inside and try to get Ermelinda and Nathaniel out. Then, as we know, those two gunshots rang outside of the car, and Nathaniel had shot Ermelinda and then himself. So one of the big questions, of course, is what drove Nathaniel to do it? I mean, on the surface, maybe it was his belief that he was in danger and needed to protect himself, but to all the knowledge that the cops have, they don't believe that Nathaniel ever found out that Ermelinda was the one behind these accounts. So he still thought that he was carrying out this horrific, brutal execution all in the name of the cartel, to protect his loving cartel that he worked for, to protect himself. I mean, how crazy and twisted is that? Now, Ermelinda obviously preyed on his insecurities and his paranoia, doing it in a way that really pushed him over the edge. But honestly, I think that we can all agree that this was an edge that he went over way too willingly. You can't just push someone that far and them not have any sort of responsibility or accountability with it. And I think for me, one of the most chilling parts about this case is that Ermelinda never pulled the trigger, but she orchestrated every single piece of the plan. It was her lies and her manipulation that turned Nathaniel into a murderer. And even scarier is the fact that it really didn't take much for him to do it. But I also can't wrap my mind around what her mentality was in all of this. Like, was she truly trying to just maybe scare him so that he would leave Zoraida, similar to how he said, was it Alberto who was sending these messages because he wanted to scare him off? Like, why orchestrate such a calculated, complex plan where 4 people end up dead because of an affair? I mean, I'm not trying to say this in a lighthearted way, but like we all say, just get a divorce. And they weren't even married at this point. They were just engaged. Like, leave him. Why are you orchestrating this insane, crazy thing? Or was she unwell? I mean, I don't even know where to begin trying to wrap my mind around this. Plenty of people deal with jealousy, betrayal, heartbreak every single day. And they don't resort to murder, let alone dragging other people into their twisted schemes. And unlike other murders, sadly, Zoraida's family and friends won't ever get any justice for their loved ones with a trial happening, because both Nathaniel and Ermelinda are gone, and the case is officially closed. So for Zoraida's grieving family, that means no closure, no opportunity to confront the people responsible for this, and no real answers as to why this horror even happened in the first place. And I'm also just so angry that the cops couldn't arrest Ermelinda and Nathaniel before it came to this, because it seems like they knew immediately that it was him who killed the family. So I wish those messages had been reported to the authorities before any of this went down, because maybe then those little kids would have had a chance to grow up and live life. In all of this, though, none of Zoraida's family deserved what happened to them, especially the children. And here's how the cops explained away how they weren't able to make that arrest while Nathaniel and Ermelinda were still alive.
The police memo dated Sunday, the day the bodies were found, also states there wasn't sufficient evidence at that moment to arrest Nathaniel Huey Jr., but now 3 full days later, Huey is dead, his companion critically wounded, as authorities did try to take them into custody.
This whole case is just so heartbreaking, so senseless, and truly impossible to try and even begin to comprehend. So I guess all I can really say is hold your loved ones close, look out for one another, don't cheat, not only because it makes you a bad human being, but also you never know who's on the other side of that affair and what lengths those people will go to try to protect what they believe they're protecting. It's just not a good situation. It's very scary and it's bad. It's going to end badly for every single person involved. So just get a divorce, don't have any affairs, only sleep with single people, and just like watch your back. Ugh, I don't know. That's like the only words of advice I think I can leave you guys with today because my head is still spinning. Now, before we go, I also want to give you guys one more quick reminder that new podcast feed is up and running. We will have a brand new episode for you tomorrow, but it's going to be on the 10 to Life podcast. So again, make sure you go into your podcast app, whichever one you're on, search for 10 to Life, follow it so that you will not miss those episodes. And if you feel like it's still early morning for you and you need more to binge today, we have those 2 episodes from last week that you can go listen to. Thank you guys for tuning in to another deep dive here on Serialously. I will be back with you Thursday with all of the headline highlights this week. As a reminder, if you have any case requests that you want coverage of, you can do that over on our website, annieelise.com, or you can leave a comment in the review section on Apple with your request. I like to cover cases that you guys submit just because I know that those are the ones that you want to hear, but let me know. And I'll be back with you Thursday. And until then, guys, just please watch your back and do not catfish anybody. Maybe that needs to be the next slogan. Do not catfish. Please don't. All right. Bye, guys.